So go ahead, grab you a seat. This is gonna be a lecture. You know how we get, My name is Jaden Clark, a senior here at Stanford University in a dual degree in mathematics and comparative studies and race ethnicities, and this is my CSRE capstone project.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Okay, so everybody loves a good horror movie, right? That feeling when your heart jumps, the lights cut off, and for a second, you don't even know if you're safe anymore. For a long time, the horror genre focused on one essential idea, which is that fear comes from the outside. Something supernatural invades a world that was perfectly fine just 5 minutes ago. Think The Exorcist, The Conjuring, Insidious, movies where demons, ghosts, curses, and possessions break into a peaceful life, and that's what makes it terrifying. And horror mastered that formula. You can think about all these different things: the eerie silence before a scream, the slow creak of a door, or even that jump scare that you honestly probably knew was coming, but you still weren't ready for it regardless. But here's the limitation. Traditional horror imagines fear as an interruption. It assumes the world is safe until something evil happens. That assumption only works if your world was safe to begin with. And for Black people, the horror was never waiting behind a door. The horror is the door. It is the system, right? It is the world. Black people live in a society where the jump scare isn't a monster in the closet. It's a moment the police car turns onto your street. It's the doctor not believing in your pain. It's the school counselor redirecting you away from your AP classes. And it's walking into a store and feeling every set of eyes on you like a tracking device. And that's what people are failing to realize. We didn't need Hollywood to imagine horror for us. We're already living in the genre. And that's where Black filmmakers flipped the script. They took horror away from the supernatural and turned the camera towards our own social reality. Horror stopped being about monsters chasing people, and now it's about systems chasing people. Both Peele and Coogler are asking the same question. What does it mean to move through a world where your very existence is shaped by systems that decide your vulnerability? But the way that they answer that question, very different, in my opinion. Peele, on one hand, traps his characters in tight, suffocating spaces where the horror is subtle and psychological. The suburbs, right? The lab, the mirror, the living room. That's what Peele is doing. Coogler will build entire worlds where the horror comes more from history, right? This could come from Jim Crow afterlives, right? From the memory of violence that refuses to stay buried, and from the complicated futures of Black sovereignty. Basically, think about it like this. Peele is saying, look at the horror that already surrounds us. Coogler is like, look at what we built in spite of it, and look how the world still tries to take it. So before we jump into the films, let's start with a theory that explains why these movies hit like they do. Achille Mbembe gives us the concept of necropolitics, which describes a world where power doesn't just govern how we live, but actually how we die, or at least how we're forced to survive under conditions that feel close to death. He calls these spaces death worlds, places where people aren't necessarily killed, but are kept in permanent states of vulnerability, disposability, or structural suffocation. And when you think about Black history in the United States, you instantly see the connection. I'm talking enslavement, Jim Crow, redlining, mass incarceration, police violence, damn, I could keep going, medical discrimination, economic abandonment, like, how many times, I don't know how long I have to go on, but I think you get it. All the things I just listed, they're not just events, they're environments. Black communities have lived inside death worlds that shape neighborhoods, the possibilities, and the access to resources that we have, even our lifespan. So necropolitics doesn't ask, what if something evil appears? It asks, who's allowed to feel safe and who never really gets that luxury? And that's where contemporary Black horror comes in. Peele and Coogler aren't inventing monsters, they're visualizing structures through monsters. So let's break down exactly how they do it. Basically, I'm gonna be doing 2 Jordan Peele movies, 2 Ryan Coogler movies, and I mean, without further ado, let's just get straight into it. We starting with Jordan Peele, Get Out. So Jordan Peele builds horror out of quiet, everyday spaces. Racism isn't loud in Get Out. It's pretty smooth, it's polite, it's deadly when we get to the end, right? So let's talk about this opening abduction scene. And you can kind of see how suburbs operate as a death world in this sense. So watch how Peele shoots this, right? You got Andre, he's walking through a neighborhood, it's designed to feel safe. You got these perfect lawns, perfect lighting, no one in sight.
It's crazy. You got me out here in this creepy, confusing ass suburb.
Look at the camera's distance. It follows him. Think of like surveillance. Then the white car glides behind them. No roar, no skid. It's just quiet. In a death world, danger doesn't announce itself. It behaves like it belongs there more than the Black people themselves do.
I think it should have left on, what was that? Peacock. Fuck this. I was about to go the other way. I can't. Not today, bro. Yo!
So that's this scene. That's really important to look at. So now we're gonna move on to the auction scene. Here, horror isn't just what's said, it's what's implied for this one. Every hand that touches Chris is treating him like a product. The camera stays close, trapping us inside his discomfort, right? The auction begins. It's framed in silence like a charity gala. White, wealthy, organizing black life and black death with the raise of a hand.
I just need to go.
Peele makes necropolitics look normal here because oftentimes it is. Now we're gonna move on to the very last clip, right? The most famous one, the sunken place. So you probably have already seen this plenty of times.
Now, sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
This is the interior architecture of the death world, right? Chris can still see the world, but he can't reach it. He's alive, but obviously you can't say that he's really living. He's present, but he's definitely powerless. Peele doesn't just show oppression here, but he shows it as this psychological interior, this psychological terror inside of Chris's mind. So to wrap up, Get Out reveals the horror inside everyday politeness, and this death world is disguised as normal life. So now that we've wrapped out Get Out, let's move to Us. Still focusing on Jordan Peele. So let's look at these clips. If Get Out traps one man, Us certainly traps the whole country, right? So the moment Adelaide steps inside, every mirror begins to duplicate her. You see prosperity above ground, and then you have this discarded shadow below. And then when the reflection steps out of sync, Peele tells us, America has always had a double, an underclass it depends on, but refuses to see. I also want to talk about the tethered reveal clip because I feel like this is super important. So we see Red in the living room, and Red's voice sounds broken, like language doesn't really belong to her.
There was a girl, and the girl had a shadow.
Her body imitates Adelaide's, but it doesn't seem like it has a choice in the matter. The tunnels reveal a whole population living in darkness, forced to mimic the lives above them, right? That's where we kind of get a sense of what being tethered is. This is really necropolitics made literal, right? It's a nation built on invisible suffering. The last clip that I want to highlight is the Hands Across America one. Honestly, probably one of my favorite from the film. So this was a real 1986 charity stunt meant to solve poverty through symbolism, and Peele resurrects it as horror, right? A protest that emerges from the underground.
You could have taken me with you. Years after we met.
So we see helicopters hovering, confused. So Us widens the frame that death world isn't just personal, it can manifest on the national, statewide level. So if Peele shows us the present day trap, Coogler certainly shows us the historical machinery that built it. And the futures black people can imagine beyond it as well. I feel like there's no better movie to start with than with Sinners. Set in 1932 Mississippi, Sinners merges racial violence with supernatural horror, showing that the past never really stays buried. I want to first talk about one of the smaller clips, which is the plantation tokens. This really kind of gets into economic necropolitics. So you see this clip, you have smoke, tokens in the juke drum. Coogler films the tokens like cursed artifacts. They're the metal clicks.
These is good.
Kind of like chains almost, but maybe I'm stretching it.
You like that code, right?
I certainly do.
This ain't no house party, and it damn sure ain't no charity. We taking cash, U.S. motherfucking dollars.
This ain't Chicago, Smoke.
The fuck that mean? That old nigga worked his ass off for them wooden nickels.
These tokens kept
been working in
black
the field
labor
all day.
alive, but never
And they show up
free.
here
So this
looking
one didn't even
at
need a
jail
vampire to
They gotta
show
feel
the
wanted if they
necropolitics.
want
The
to see
economic
more.
system itself serves as the monster for this scene. Now I want to kind of go into one of the more famous scenes, the vampires that were actually at the door. So here you see Remick and the other white vampires requesting entry. Look how politely they ask to be let in. They want the music, the joy, the brilliance inside, and especially Sammy's talent.
Must be that voice I heard from out here. Oh, it was beautiful,
Goddamn beautiful voice.
even through these walls.
But the vampire stuff in here, it becomes a metaphor for whiteness
how far
as
is
an
that?
undead
North
structure.
Carolina.
It doesn't just kill black life, but it feeds on it. Now, lastly, I want to touch on the scene that's essentially Smoke's last stand. I think it's one of the more profound parts in the movie at the very end. So we see at dawn, the vampires burst into flames, but the true monsters, right, the clan, still survive the night, and Smoke fights anyway. So this is showing death as sovereignty in this moment. And he's not fighting because he wants to die, but because the death world leaves no other path for him to protect the next generation. This is necessary for him to take this battle on. So when he falls, the camera, you can see, holds onto his body. Freedom has a cost that the world unfortunately refuses to acknowledge oftentimes. Sinners shows necropolitics not as a metaphor, but as a historical reality. The afterlife of racial violence is made literal in Sinners. Okay, so after looking at Get Out, Us, and Sinners, I want to move on to the last Ryan Coogler movie, which is Black Panther. And now you might be asking, that's not really horror for real. And honestly, yeah, you're right. But stay with me. Since the first film show us the architecture of the death world, I think that Black Panther shows us what it looks like to imagine a world beyond it. And that's why I feel like there's a place for it in this video. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So I first want to kind of start off with the opening clip, which is just Wakanda's reveal. We see a black nation that's untouched by colonialism. We see no plantations, no tokens, no sunken place like we saw in the other films. This is essentially Mbembe's dream, where we see a space that's outside of necropolitical control, a world where black life isn't managed or threatened, it simply exists. Now let's start talking about Killmonger. We can start with the scene where he's just like walking through the museum. But Killmonger walks into Wakanda as essentially an embodiment of everything that we've talked about thus far, right? The tether, the kidnapped black body, right? Sammy without protection and Sinners. Like he's embodying all of that.
Now, tell me about this one.
Also from Benin, 7th century. Fula tribe, I believe.
Nah.
I beg your pardon.
It was taken by British soldiers in Benin, but it's from Wakanda, and it's made out of vibranium. Don't trip. I'm gonna take it off your hands for you.
These items aren't for sale.
How do you think your ancestors got these? You think they paid a fair price? Or did they take it like they took everything else?
So when he says, did y'all pay a fair price or did y'all take it? He becomes the ghost of every death world that America has
since I walked in, but you ain't checking for what you put in your body.
I want to skip forward to one of the most impactful scenes of Black Panther, which is when it starts to talk about the ancestral plane. So we see this clip of T'Challa confronting his father.
Jan.
The time has come for you to come home and be reunited with me.
Kuba, why didn't you bring the boy home? Why, Baba?
He was the truth I chose to omit.
You were wrong to abandon him.
This is where T'Challa learns the truth. Wakanda didn't cause the death world, but it also didn't save people from being trapped inside of it.
You were wrong! All of you are wrong! To turn your backs on the rest of the world! We let the fear of our discovery stop us from doing what is right. No more. I cannot stay here with you. I cannot rest where he sits on the throne. He is a monster of our own making.
So opening Wakanda isn't really a charity, it's healing, it's responsibility. And this is where we start to get into what a reparative imagination can look like. Peele shows us the catastrophic prison of the present. Coogler shows us the haunted afterlife of the past, and together they point towards the future. Black horror shows us the world that kills us. Black Panther shows us a world that we can be fighting for. And the journey between them, from death world to sovereignty, is the story of Black cinematic imagination itself.